Alright, let's go to face select. We're going to select this face over here. We'll do Shift S. We'll move the cursor to the selection. And then we can grab these two faces. We'll set our pivot point to be 3D cursor. And then we can scale in the Y to 0. That way it's an even field. And then we can select both those faces, do Shift S, cursor to selected, change my pivot point back to individual origins. And now I can do a Shift A, we'll add a mesh in object mode, and we'll choose cylinder. I'm going to rotate in the Y by 90, scale it down, scale it in the X, scale Shift X, and we're going to make this relatively small. Let's bring it back here. And push it back into place. And then I'm going to do somewhere around there. It's a little bit longer on the right side than it is the left, but that's relatively about right. And then maybe I'll move it up a bit. So it's like right about here. Now that we have that, we can actually come into our main shape, go into edit mode, and then we can actually begin to do a cutout. So we can do Control R, add a loop cut there, and then we will scale in the Y to 0, straighten it up. And then we'll also do a loop cut here. So we'll do Control R. This time we can't straighten out the whole thing. So what we can do is just in edge select, we'll select this edge, hold Control, and select around until we bring that selection there. And then scale with S in the Y to 0. And that'll straighten it out just like that. And now we need a sideways cut, but before I do that, I want to go ahead and try to level this out a bit. I'm going to hold Control, select there, Shift, and then Shift Control. Then I'm going to press GG to do an edge slide. And I'll edge slide it back a bit. And then I'm going to hold Control, and then Shift Control. And then actually what I'll do is I'll just do one at a time, and we'll do a GG to edge slide it back. And then GG slide this down. And it'll kind of relax the shape a bit. Maybe add a Control R to add a loop cut, and then bring that forward. You can see that looks a little bit better like that. I'm a little bit happier with that shape. So now I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to do a Control R. And the reason I wanted to do that first is because this loop cut is going to go all the way across. And that looks pretty okay. So I'm going to hold Shift Alt, select that, and then Shift Alt and select that loop. So we kind of have more or less a plus sign. We can hide the other cylinder so it's a little bit easier to visualize. And then what we need is we need our 4 squares. So we can do a Control B for a bevel. I want to roll my mouse wheel up to get myself 3 cuts. And you can see it gives me my 4 little squares. I want to press C to clamp. And then we can go pretty small. So we can go maybe right about there. And the reason we want to do that is because we don't have a lot of room towards the back. But we can actually go into face mode. And we can select all these little faces here using Shift. You can see this one got deformed a bit. And this is our last face. We can right click, loop tools, circle. So now they're all little circles. And then if we press S, we can scale onto individual origins. You can scale it pretty far. Probably makes more sense to bring back our cylinder. So we can maybe scale it and kind of see where it is most appropriate, which is probably right about there. Now we'll press I to add a small inset. And it doesn't have to be much, just a little ridge, so kind of like that. Then we'll press 3, we'll go into face select, and then we're going to do one side at a time. So we'll shift the inside ring, right click, go to our loop tools, and then bridge. And then we have a nice little cutout, like so. Then we'll do the same thing over here using shift. And then shift this side, right click, loop tools, bridge. Now if we bring back our cylinder, we can tab into object mode, move back over here, and we can try to position it a little bit better, somewhere around there. Maybe scale shift X, move it around. Something that makes sense. I think right there is maybe okay. Maybe we'll scale it a little bit more. And we can come back in here. And if you wanted to tighten it up, you can add an inside cut, but it actually doesn't look too bad, so I think we'll be all right. All right, let's bring back our little cylinder. Now what we can do is we can begin to shape this out. So right now we have non-uniform scale and rotation, so we'll do Control A, do rotation scale, cleans that up. That'll help us with our bevels and stuff. Then we'll go into edit mode, Alt Z so we can see what we're doing. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a Control R, so add a loop cut. I'm gonna move that loop cut one on this side right here. And Control R, I need one right here. Control R, another one right on this piece here. And then we need to mirror that on the other side here. So we need one right here. You could do like maybe right in front of the spring, doesn't matter. And then Control R, move that one right on this side. Actually, it goes up a little bit further, right about there. And then one right here. So you have a loop cut there, and then we're gonna need to move this loop cut a little bit further in. So GG, just add slide it right about there, and that looks pretty good. We'll start with this one first. We'll do a Control B. Well, we'll do it just for 2 segments. And then we will do an E for extrusion, S for scale, Shift X, so it only does the X and Y. We'll bring it in a bit. I'm going to press 3 to go to face select, select this face, I to inset, something right around there, then Alt S, to just push it out a bit. And then we can go to 2 for edge select, hold Alt, and then Shift Alt, and then Control B, add a small bevel there, a chamfer. And now we can right click shade smooth, go in our object properties and add auto smooth. And that cleans that up and gives you something a little more interesting to look at. And now for this side, we're gonna do something similar. So we'll hold Alt, get that ring, do a Control B, add a 2 cut segment there. And then we will E to extrude, S to scale, Shift X, just bring it in a bit. And then we will do a Control R, add a loop there, Control R, add a loop here. We'll do 3 for face select, select this face, I to inset, Alt S to push it out, maybe right around there. And then with face select, we can hold Alt, select that ring there, Alt S, can expand that out a bit. We can go to 2, and if you wanted to, we can actually add another bevel there with an extrusion, and then scale, Shift X, bring it in like that. Then we press 2 to go to edge select, and then you can hold Alt, select a ring, Shift Alt, oops, select this ring, and then we can do these 2 over here. And then we can add a small chamfer on this side as well, just something that catches the light a little bit better. So you kind of have that to work with. Nothing too crazy. Then we can come over here and we're going to go to face select with 3. Hold Alt. We'll select that face. Shift Alt. Select this face. Shift D to duplicate. Right click so it snaps back. Press P to separate, and let's do by selection. We'll tab back into object mode. We're going to hide our cylinder and select that separated piece. Go back into edit mode. Press A to select everything. And now all we need to do is press E to extrude, S to scale, and then Shift X. So we're only going in the X and the Y. And now you'll notice we have this nice little, kind of like a sleeve that we can use. And we can come to bottom view, like this. And I want to grab a few of the faces here. I think I'll grab 4 faces, so maybe these 4 here. And then I want to grab the 4 faces that are symmetrical on the other side. And then with individual origins, we can scale in the Z to 0. And then we can see that looks, yeah, that looks all right. So now we can go to edge select, hold Alt, and then Shift Alt. And then we can build out our selection here. Because we don't need these edges. They're going to cause a problem for us, or more work, I should say. So we might as well get rid of them. So we can press X, dissolve those edges. We can go 3 for face select. And then select these 2 faces here. And I'm actually going to reset my view, frame selected. And then transparency mode. Now the shape has a little cutout here. So what we can do is we can extrude to that cutout, so right about there. And then we could extrude again, come down maybe right about here. I want to go a little bit further in my reference because I don't have everything lining up perfectly, so it's a little bit taller. And then from here, we can select this face, shift select this face, right click, loop tools, bridge. So now you more or less have that that kind of shape you're looking for. And now we need to get some of the these little accent pieces. It looks like it's kind of like divoted. And then you have this little cylinder piece. So, and we also have to make the spring. So we'll try and do that now. The way we'll do that is we'll use a subsurf modifier. So very similar how we did the main upper receiver. So we can just come to object mode, add a subsurf, bump it to 2. So we kind of have this to work with. And then what I'll do is I'll do a Control R. So I'll add a vertical cut. I'm going to bump it right there. I'll do Control R. I have to put it in the middle here. And then I'm going to Control B to bevel it. And I'm going to use this for these runs down here. So my shape's not going to line up perfectly with the reference, but that's okay. And then I'll add another one right about here. And then I'm going to use Shift Alt, and I'm going to select all those faces I just created. Oops, I actually need one more. So we'll do Control R. We need a horizontal one coming across here. So then Shift Alt and select all the rings we made. So I'm not going to use these 2 edges. And then I need 3 segments. So I'll do Control B for a bevel. Roll the mouse wheel up. So I have 3 segments here. And then just wide enough, I guess, somewhere around there. And now what we need to do is we need to push these vertices in. And we need to shape them a little bit too. So starting off over here, and you want to be in transparency mode so you get the ones in the front and the back. So I'm going to shift select these 2, grab it, and just shift them up so it kind of rounds out these corners. And then make sure you do in transparency mode so you can select them both. And then I'm using this outside ring here, so I'm going to select this one and then shift select these 2, grab, and then just kind of move the verts up so it kind of just rounds out an edge. The subsurf will kind of take care of the rest, so you don't really have to be precise. It's very forgiving. And then I am using these two rings here, so I will grab, push these forward, so somewhere around there. And then grab these two here. And now we just need to select this inside ring. So we'll select here, these two, one right there, these three, and then it comes inside, and this one right here. So that's going to be the path that I take. And then I'm going to mimic that on this side. I'm just holding shift and just box selecting, which are getting the front and the back. So kind of like that. Now you can grab, in my case I'm pushing in the Y, so now I get that little thing going on. And I'm just going to just do a little dent. I don't want to go too far. Maybe just something like that. Nothing too crazy. And now what we need to do is we need to define that, basically that indent. So I'm going to shift select and select the entire edge loop, which should be right here. And with that selected, I can do a Control B. I'm going to add a very small bevel, so something around there. And that'll kind of define the shape a little bit better. We're going to have to use some supporting loops here in a second. But let's go ahead and fix the edges real quick. So we'll do transparency again with Alt Z. I'm going to select this edge and just grab and kind of round it out. Like so. And then if you wanted to experiment a bit, you can do edge loops. So do a Control R, and you can push edge loops real close on the sides here, and you kind of see how that looks, whether you like it or not. It's such a small accent piece, I don't think it's really going to show up too much, so you probably don't have to go crazy with this. Let's see what this one looks like. Control R here. If you did another one, you'd probably have to put it on the inside ring here. Same thing with this one. Inside ring here. I don't know if I care for that, so I'll probably undo it, but you may prefer that. I'm going to go with less geometry. I do need some supporting loops up at the top though, so I'll do one right here, push that over. And then this one too, do a Control R, push that over here. Same thing right here, you can see it kind of doesn't go to the edge, so I'll do a Control R, push that over like so. Control R, this one's not as bad. Oops. We'll just add one just to be safe. And then the inside's kind of washed out, so you can do a Control R, add a loop cut here, bring it in. And then a Control R, add a little bit of rigidity on that one. And then that doesn't look too bad, and wherever you see anything washed out, just do a Control R, add a support loop here and there, and it'll fill itself out pretty well. But I'm gonna go ahead and work on the centerpiece. So we have this little cylinder looking thing, I don't really know what it is, but you can select the face, press I to inset it, somewhere around there, and then we can just extrude with E. I'm going to come up just a smidge. I'm going to give a loop cut, Control R, and I'm going to grab that edge. I'm going to grab that in the Y, just pull that out further. You have this little nubbin, and then you can do a Control R, Control B, roll it down, and then just push the edge loops. Actually, instead, I will do one at a time. Control R, push one here, and then Control R, push one back down here. And that kind of gives you that little shape there. Now, based on the reference image that I'm looking at on my other monitor, there's a little cutout or a hole, some little circular thing, so we can see if we can make that. Probably doesn't matter, but we can maybe do a Control R, bring a loop down here, and then maybe another one right here. And then select those two just like we did before. We'll create a little tiny little squares, I guess. And then press 3, select these inside squares, go to our loop tools, convert it to a circle, do a tiny inset, extrude it in. Maybe I pushed it too far in. Extrude it just a bit maybe. And then if you wanted to, you can do a Control R on the inside and push that in. So you have that little weird circle thing. I don't know why it's there, but it is. And then for the other thing that kind of protrudes from the bottom, I will probably do a Control R here. I need to figure out some way to make this even. So maybe I'll use these faces here, maybe. Yeah, we could try that, see what happens. Loop tool, circle. We scale that down. That might work. Let's see if we just use these two. Okay, so let's do these. Let's do an inset maybe. And then convert it to a circle. I think it works best the other way. So tool circle, scale it down, and then let's go bottom view. You line your camera, it's easier to rotate it, kind of like so. And then what we can do is extrude that down, and then add a loop cut right there. Scale that one out, and then select this face, maybe scale it down, and then you kind of have this odd shape. And our geometry might have been a little bit too tight for this one. Let me see if I can kind of curve that out a bit maybe. Nope, too much geometry there. Let's see if we can figure out a different loop. So let's do this. We'll go to, we'll do this edge and this edge. Actually, let's try just this edge. Control B. We'll do something maybe right about there. We'll select these four faces, convert that to a circle. That looks a little better. And then let's extrude that down, scale that in, Control R right there, and then scale that one up. Maybe that's a bit too big, and we'll make this one smaller. More or less. All right, let's make the spring though. Let's be a little bit easier. So let's do Shift S, cursor here. We'll do Shift A in object mode. We're going to add a curve, and the curve we want to do is a curved spiral Archimedean. If you don't have that option, just simply go to your preferences and add, I think it's loop tools, more tools, curves, and it should be a free add-on, so you can add it pretty much from anywhere. And then I'm going to push F9 because my window does not open up for some reason. And for the radius, I'm going to try 0.1. Let's increase the steps to be 30. Let's do turns, maybe 20. And then the height, what's 0.1 look like? So that's too big. Let's do, whoops, F9. For the rotation, I'm going to rotate on the Y 90 degrees. And for the radius, maybe 0.005. And then the height, 0.005. What's that look like? Getting closer. Alright, so let's do 7. Yeah, we could probably do 8. Yeah, 8 looks right. And then for the steps, probably increase those a bit. Or we could probably increase the height. Although I like the height, I think the height's okay. So let's grab in the X. Yeah, I can't bring that menu back, that's funny. Alright, well let's see what that looks like. You can go to your curve properties here, and under the, I want to say geometry tab, but bevel. Oh, there it is, depth. I was just missing it. So if you increase your depth, you can see that's probably too big. It thickens the wire though, so we can try 0.005, 0.003. That's pretty close. Let's fill the caps. Let's take a look. I actually don't mind that. You can just see 0.002. That looks pretty good too, actually. Look at the reference here. That's a little bit tighter, so I think 0.003 is a winner for me. But yeah, just play around with it, and I think in edit mode we can actually scale it. No, maybe not. Medium point, scale X. Oh yeah, you can, so, okay. So we could scale X and make it a little bit wider if you need to. Basically just get the general shape, and you can get it pretty close just like that. Move the cursor back to world origin so it's a little bit easier to see. But I think we're looking pretty good. So I think for the dust cover, that's good enough for me. So real quick though, while we're here, there's some, we can do the cutouts for the, I guess the threading on the barrel. This is probably not required, but it's easy enough to do. You can do a Control R, we'll spin the wheel up, maybe add 5 cuts. Right click so it snaps even, then do Control B, add a bevel. I'm just going to do 2 cuts, so like that. And you don't have to go very big, but we are going to be scaling it down, so give yourself a little bit of room, so somewhere around there. And then what you can do is you can extrude, scale, and do Shift X, because you don't want it to move on the X axis. Based on, that's however your model's going to be oriented. Mine's on the X axis. And then you can see it's about flat, so you just come out just a bit. You don't have to do much. And then what you can do is you press 3, or you select face mode, and you scale in the X, and you make those outside base is thinner. Although with me, I gotta right click to cancel that. You gotta be in individual origins for that. So we'll scale in the X. Just bring it down a bit. Now you have what looks like the illusion of threading. It's a really quick and dirty way to do it, but it usually looks out pretty good. Alright, so I think we have this side mostly done. It's still washed out because remember we haven't added our edge supporting loop, so we're going to be doing that I think before the joining of the railing. We might do it before. So that'll give the shape of it look a lot better once we get there. But I think now we can probably work on the backside.